Do you always feel strong and brave?
You're not brave, especially with animals.
Especially with animals.
Yeah.
So which animals make you not feel strong and brave? Hippos?
Yeah.
But tell me more about it.
They can eat you.
They can
They
eat
can
you.
not eat, but they can remove your hand or leg.
You can remove your hand or leg. So at what point will you be in this situation with a hippo?
I fall into a lake.
If you fall into a lake.
Uh-huh.
How many? Okay. When was the last time you were near a lake?
Last year.
Last year. So did that fear stop you from doing something? How come?
Because we just did it.
Because you just did it. Because you are brave. So what did you do? How were you brave in that situation?
By going on the boat.
By going on the boat. Interesting. That's cool. I know something else that I feel you've been brave around. The elevator.
Yeah.
What's been going on with that?
And when the elevator will be like stuck inside, like when steamer goes, or let's say it just breaks. But now I'm not really scared because I'm like, we can just call for help.
You can just call for help.
Yeah. And that way to still comes.
So previously, what did you choose to do instead of going on the elevator?
Take the stairs.
Take the stairs. Well, taking the stairs is good for your heart. So, but now that you've chosen to overcome this fear, what do you feel is helping you? How has it helped you? How do you feel the benefit of choosing to face this fear has helped you?
I don't have to climb so many stairs.
8th floor panting.
And then you guys are just waiting on the 10th floor. You already got ice cream, pizza, life.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. In having this conversation with my daughter, it just got me thinking a lot about how fear has been prevalent in my life for a really long time. And I just love something that she said. I just did. You know, in her experience with feeling afraid, feeling scared, she just chose to do what she needed to do. And I mean, I'm encouraged. I'm encouraged by her, and also just sparked me into wanting to have more of, wanting to have a conversation around fear. Because for a really long time, I have experienced the kind of fear that is very paralyzing, and has hindered me from moving forward, from making decisions, from doing things that I have desired to do, from doing things that I feel called to do, from situations where I have felt that some people have probably not experienced the best parts of me because of what fear has done and how it has caused me to show up in different situations. That is not my full best self. You get me? So let's talk. Let's talk about how fear has gotten you and I stuck. I mean, this is a conversation for anyone who has felt stuck, paralyzed, hindered from doing the things that they would want to do because of how fear has had a grip over them in their lives. Okay? In having this conversation, one, I do recognize that fear has two sides of it. So there's the kind of fear, the feeling of being scared of circumstances that are your body's way of warning you of an impending danger. Okay? So something is going on, there's a fire. Okay? And your nerves, your body's receptors respond and communicate to your brain for it to process and be able to send messages to whatever parts of your bodies, whether it's your legs to run, whether it's your hands to fight. Basically, your brain communicates so that you can be able to respond in a way that protects you from this danger. Okay? There's also the kind of fear where we as believers have the fear of the Lord. We have reverence towards Him. We honor and respect Him. And that kind of fear is not a bad thing. It's a good thing, right? But there's a flip side of fear that is paralyzing, that is hindering, that has a grip on you to the extent where you just cannot move. Okay? And this is a fear that I want us to talk about today. Why? Because as I've shared, I've had a relationship with fear for a really long time, an unhealthy one. And I've been on a journey of just trying to overcome it. One, like my daughter said, by just doing it afraid. And that's one of the choices that I've made even to be here today. Do it afraid. And let me give you an example of me doing it afraid. This podcast right here, it has been a thought in my mind for years. Let me take you back to 2013 when I had a YouTube channel, okay? And I started it. I was running with the brand name It's a Mama's World, and had these big dreams and these big desires to impact the world around me, okay? But what happened is, because I was in a space where I felt called to share vulnerably my story, which is still the same thing now. I was in a space where I felt called to vulnerably share my story. I was very afraid, fearful of just exposing myself, hanging my dirty laundry, fearful of the response, what people would think, the judgment that would come with that, and the rejection probably thereafter. So there was a lot of fear surrounding me, even as I did it afraid. So what happened is, it got to a point where there was a battle between me choosing to do this thing and the battle where fear is like, no, stop, don't do this, right? So that is exhausting, because there are two opposing forces that are working against each other. And so it got to a point where I was overcome by fear's grip and just got stuck, was unable to create, was unable to just proceed with some of the things that I had wanted to do. And it's really sad, because I know I have moments where I'm like, what if I continued? What if in 2013, YouTube was, there are few creators then. And I'm just like, what if I continued sharing this story? What if I continued with this plan that God had placed in my heart? As in, where would I be today? But again, we don't want to live in the what ifs all the time. So today I'm asking myself, what if we find solutions or answers to being able to not only do it afraid, but even dig deeper, so that we are the ones who are overcoming fear. We are the ones overpowering fear. We are taking our power back and being able to step into the things that God has called us into. The first thing I just thought of about this battle of wanting to do something and fear holding us back. It's a battle, as I said. And it made me think that fear has definitely taken root in my life. I mean, it's built a home. It's moved in. It's, found room in my mind, in my heart, in my life, and it's become comfortable because doing it afraid, I believe, is us working concurrently with fear. So fear has made room in my life. It's moved in. It's packed its bags, and it's like, I found space in here to coexist with this person. And it's attached itself to the way I think, the way I process things. So constantly overthinking every single detail. And it's exhausting. I mean, it's like living with somebody, being in a room with someone who you share very different ways of doing things with. So this one wants to have the bed, maybe, let's even just talk about a simple situation where someone is just messy, wants to have their clothes on the floor when clearly clothes should be kept in certain places, wants to have their shoes all laid out on the floor, their clothes all laid out on the floor, and you have the picture where you want your room to be organized. You want your clothes to be in the closet. You want your shoes to be on the shoe rack, so that you can comfortably move around in that room. So when you choose to live with this person and say, you know what, I'm not going to let it get to me. I am going to overlook their clothes and I will just jump over them. The truth is you're doing that, but it's a constant annoyance in your life. It's a constant lack of peace that you have chosen to coexist with in your life. And this is how I am viewing fear in my life right now today. And that's why I'm like, no, we got to go deeper. We have to get to a place where we are the ones taking our power back and saying, you know what? This is how I want to live. And these are my boundaries. And this is how far you can come in my life. And beyond here, you are not welcome here. You need to move out, because I want peace in my life. I want organization in my life. I want structure. And you are no longer welcome here. So how do we set a boundary with fear? In thinking and processing this whole conversation, I remembered a conversation that I had with a specific lady who I want to come on my podcast, okay? And it's so interesting that in the moment I chose to be vulnerable in just how, even while doing this podcast, I still find myself feeling very fearful, feeling where the messages of imposter syndrome checks in, self-doubt, and feeling like, why are you doing this thing? Who are you? And what message do you really have to send to the people? Like, who wants to listen to you? Very negative messages, okay? So I recognize, I had a moment of vulnerability, and I was just like, you know what? Please do pray for me, because I do still really battle. I do still really battle with fear and self-doubt. She said, you are more than capable. You have the spirit that raised Jesus Christ back to life in you. Tell me, what can't you do with God on your side? Keep obeying and holding on to the Lord. That's all you need. Do you know, it's so funny because I know this, but it hit different in this moment. In thinking about this, there's a part of me that was like, as in, really? Like, Mwende, you are a believer in Christ Jesus. And you know this truth. So why isn't it manifesting in your life in that way? Why aren't you living and walking and breathing like someone who has the power that raised Jesus Christ to life in you? I feel sad and challenged that as a believer, we really forget who and whose we are. And that's a place that brought me to thinking that one of the reasons why fear has a grip on especially believers in Jesus is because we know it. We have had knowledge of Jesus Christ, inviting him to live in our hearts. But I believe that there's a lack of really deeply and truly knowing and believing that because of having him in our lives, then we move and show up differently. 2 Timothy chapter 1 verse 7, for this reason I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands. This is Paul writing to Timothy. For the Spirit God gave us does not make us timid, but gives us power, love, and self-control. I think in other versions it just talks about how God has not given us a spirit of fear, but what he has given unto us, a spirit of power, of love, and of sound mind. In knowing this to be true, in knowing that we have God who lives in us, we have God who has given us not a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of sound mind. How then do we show up? How do we move? In what situations do you feel the most confident? Do you feel most confident when you have your hair done, your nails done, you got new clothes on, a new pair of shoes, or just you're just looking good that day? My assumption is that you'll probably walk and talk different. It'll give you a kick in your step. It'll give you a boost to your confidence. These are things that are not lasting. But having Christ in us is everlasting. So what is the disconnect there? Like, what is the disconnect? Anyway, what encourages me, let me say what encourages me is when I read scripture, I see how God many times has encouraged the people he has called to not be afraid. You know how everyone is using ChatGPT to ask it questions? I asked, tell me the number of times, giving examples, God told someone in the Bible not to be afraid. And I'm not sure it gave me the number of times, but the number of people are so many. And these are but just a few. Abraham, after this, the word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision. Do not be afraid, Abraham. I am your shield, your very great reward. To Hagar, God heard the boy crying, and the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven and said to her, what is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. God has heard the boy crying as he lies there. To Isaac, that night the Lord appeared to him and said, I am the God of your father, Abraham. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. I will bless you, and I will increase the number of your descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. To Moses, the Lord said to Moses, do not be afraid of him, for I have delivered him into your hands, along with his whole army and his land. And when I think of the journey of Moses in the wilderness and to the Israelites, and so God had promised the Israelites this land that they would settle in. But the thing is, they needed to drive out the nations through battle. And many times God told them not to be afraid. To Joshua, the same thing. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. To Gideon, to Elijah, to Jehoshaphat, to Daniel, to Joseph, to Mary, to the shepherds, to Paul. So many people God told, do not be afraid. And it makes me know that God is aware of this fear. Let me just use some scriptural stories and examples of the different kind of the ways fear has shown up in some of the characters in the Bible. So Adam and Eve, the first man and woman, at the point where they had chosen to, eat the fruit from the forbidden tree, they recognized that they were naked, okay? And so when they had the Lord walking in the garden, in Genesis 3, it said that, so he answered, I had you in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. This kind of fear is the kind of fear that brings shame over your life. I dare say that we do make choices in our lives that can cause this kind of fear. I mean, you've chosen to do something that you are probably not supposed to, just like Adam and Eve. And so therefore, the result of it is that there's shame, there's nakedness. You feel exposed and you feel embarrassed by it. And so it causes us to hide, to isolate. We don't want anyone to know. We don't want anyone to see us. And that's exactly what causes us to then withdraw and not be able to be who God created us to be. Adam and Eve being the first man and woman who had such a close walk and relationship with God, now hiding because of shame. So just trying to magnify just how fear can come into our lives, can enter the chat and really rob us of our identity, of our relationship with Christ, of our relationship with others. And so just showing the seriousness of why we need to tackle it, right? The other place, one of the few out of many places where the feeling of someone being afraid shows up, is in the story of the parable of the bags of gold. Let me just read it. Again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his wealth to them. To one he gave 5 bags of gold, to another 2 bags, and to another 1 bag, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. The man who had received 5 bags of gold went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 bags more. So also the one with 2 bags of gold gained 2 more. But the man who had received 1 bag went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. After a long time, the master of those servants returned and settled accounts with them. The man who had received 5 bags of gold brought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 bags of gold. See, I have gained 5 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share your master's happiness. The man with 2 bags of gold also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 bags of gold. See, I have gained 2 more. His master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and share in your master's happiness. Then the man who had received 1 bag of gold, Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went out and hid your gold in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. His master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, You should have put my money on deposit with the bankers so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. So take the bag of gold take the bag of gold from him and give it to the one who has 10 bags. For whoever has will be given more, and they will have an abundance. Whoever does not have, even what they have will be taken from them. And throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So this kind of fear, I would call it the paralyzing kind of fear. The one that causes you not to move forward, not to make decisions that will have you using your gifts, using your talents, have you showing up to where God has called you to. This kind of afraid paralyzes you and makes you, withhold what it is that you have. Okay? So this guy buried in the ground the gold that he had been given. On the flip side, his colleagues went out and were able to multiply what they had been given. So what is sad for me, just watching this guy, is how fear took over his life, because he said, I was afraid, and therefore. So fear got in his head and caused him to respond in a way that did not allow him to progress, did not allow him to multiply the gold that he had. And, just translating back to our conversation, what has fear stopped you from doing? How has fear withheld you from multiplying the gifts, the things that God has given you, the opportunities? Are there opportunities you have turned down because you were too afraid to show up for them? Right? It needs to get to a point where we take our power back. Is just really what I'm saying, okay? And what is sad that this man is now viewed as lazy. This man is now viewed as wicked. Wickedness and laziness are tied to the impact that fear has over our lives. Can we just refuse that laziness and wickedness will be what defines us, will be how we are defined? And so these are situations where fear, the feeling of being afraid, has caused these guys that we've just talked about to make decisions and choices that withhold them from just giving of their best selves. Okay? Now, there are two stories that I want us to just draw from and just see how our perspective and how we choose to look at things, our belief system, can then draw us out into stepping into what God has for us. The story of the Israelites journeying to the promised land is one of them, and many circumstances where fear showed up. But one specific one I want to use is when God instructed Moses to choose men who could go ahead of everyone else and explore the land of Canaan, and then come back and report to them on what they have seen. So there were 12 men, call them the 12 spies, who went ahead. Joshua and Caleb were among them. And they went and then eventually came back. Okay? So what's interesting is it seems that there were two different reports about this land. So when they came back, they reported to them and to the whole assembly and showed them the fruit of the land. They gave Moses this account. We went into the land to which you sent us, and it does flow with milk and honey. Here is its fruit. But the people who live there are powerful. But the people who live there are powerful, and the cities are fortified and very large. We even saw descendants of Anak there,
The Amalekites live in the Negev. The Hittites, the Jebusites, and Amorites live in the hill country. And the Canaanites live near the sea and along the Jordan. So, what are they feeling? They have seen that this land is actually good. That they don't deny. But they are afraid of the people who are dwelling in the land. Then Caleb silenced the people before Moses and said, "We should go up and take possession of the land, for we can certainly do it." But the men who had gone up with him said, "We can't attack those people. They are stronger than we are." And they spread among the Israelites, a bad report about the land they had explored. They said, "The land we explored devours those living in it. All the people we saw there are of great size." Okay, we seemed like grasshoppers in our own eyes, and we looked the same to them. So then there was grumbling, and people, even now wishing that they stayed as slaves in Egypt, complaining and to Moses and Aaron about just this situation, and why are they going to a land where they will be devoured, where there are giants, So now fear has entered the chat. Fear has entered the room, and it's about to move in and take space and be like, yeah, the Lord has promised you this land, but look at this land. Look at the giants. Look at how you look towards them. You are tiny. You are a small grasshopper. These guys are bigger than you. They are stronger than you. In comparison to you, how are you really gonna take up this land? Does this sound familiar? Does this sound like the situations you have been in, where you are looking at everyone else around you and saying, there's no way I can do it. There's no way I can go there. There's no way I can do this thing. Look how large it is. It's beyond my capacity. It's beyond my skill set. It's beyond my intelligence, even maybe. It's beyond my looks. It's beyond... I can't. It's a giant in comparison to me. I'm a tiny grasshopper. I am nothing in comparison to them. Does this sound familiar? Joshua son of Nun and Caleb son of Jephunneh, who were among those who had explored the land, tore their clothes and said to the entire Israelite assembly, "The land we passed through and explored is exceedingly good. If the Lord is pleased with us, he will lead us into the land, a land flowing with milk and honey, and will give it to us. Only do not rebel against the Lord, and do not be afraid of the people of the land, because we will devour them. Their protection is gone, but the Lord is with us. Do not be afraid of them." I just see such two different perspectives. So there's this good thing, there's this promise that the Lord has given these people. And he said, go forth, this land is yours, okay? But there are two different mindsets. There are two different perspectives here. Men who are able to see the beauty of the land flowing with milk and honey, the land that has fruit. They are able to know that if they have God on their side, then, these guys are nothing. We are the ones who will devour them. All right? We are the ones who will take possession of this land. Has God said we'll take possession of this land? If God is pleased with us, he will lead us into this land flowing with milk and honey and will give it to us. Guys, are you feeling what I'm feeling? I'm feeling challenged. I am feeling so challenged because when you know God is on your side, when you know you're walking in obedience, when you know you're moving into purpose, into calling, into what God has told you to do, then there's a different walk and step that we should be we should be walking differently, is just what I'm really trying to say. Their perspective, their mindset is so different. Their focus is not on these people. Their focus is on the promise. Their focus is on the God who is on their side. Okay? So there's this other flip side. There are these other guys who their focus, they've seen that this land indeed has fruit. They've seen that this land indeed is good. They are not denying that. But then, as we read on, they're convincing, despite the fact that they've seen how good this land is, they're still convincing people. They spread among the Israelites a bad report about the land they had explored, despite the fact that they even had proof of the fruit, like they had it with them. But they were blinded by their fear to the point where the promise of God did not make sense anymore. They were not able to know the God that they serve. They forgot the God who had rescued them and had shown his power while being rescued from Egypt, while in Israel, in the wilderness, where so many things have happened, God's provision, where you are clearly seeing God's power moving with you, moving along with you. But in this instance, when we give room to fear, we are blinded and only able to focus on the giants in the land, the inhabitants of this land, who then hinder us. We now say, we can't. That is God's promise for me, but I can't go there. Like these guys look at me and just see a grasshopper. When I look at them, I'm just seeing giants. I'm just seeing people who will devour me. I'm calling you and I to say no to the lie that fear brings upon our lives. I'm calling you and I to shift our focus on the God who is walking with us, on the land that is flowing with milk and honey, and therefore not letting anything else deter us from being able to go and enjoy the promise that God has given to us. Okay? The last story is of this woman, but there's something that I do. I just quickly Google a story that I want in scripture, that because I don't have it in off the top of my head, the woman who had the issue of blood. And this story is so dear to me. And if you know me and you know about a women's weekend that we recently had, there's a teaching that I did on this woman, and she inspires me so much. And I'm feeling emotional because this story just now, because of that teaching, has a very special place in my heart. But let me just quickly get to that. So if you might not know the story, this is a woman who has been sick. She has had an issue of bleeding for 12 years. Okay. Her life is sad because in that time, in that context, when you are on your period, you are labeled unclean, and therefore you are not welcome to interact with your people. Okay. So normally that experience would last a very short time. Yeah, your period lasts 3 to 5 days, 7 days max. She had lived a life of isolation for 12 years. And if you really sit and really process what that must have been like, then you would see and feel this woman very deeply, like I do. She received healing because she went out and touched the cloak of Jesus and received immediately, and was healed immediately. Jesus did feel the power had left him, and so he
was like, someone touched me. I know that power has gone out from me. Who touched me is what he was asking. And the woman, seeing that she could not go unnoticed, came trembling and fell at his feet. In the presence of all the people, she told why she had touched him and how she had been instantly healed. Despite knowing that if anyone saw her among them, they would probably not want them. They would not want her there. They would not welcome in their presence. Despite knowing that she's been rejected, that she's had to live in isolation because no one wants her around them because of her situation, she chose to have a different perspective where she believed more in the healing power of Jesus, and therefore her focus on pursuing, stretching, and just touching part of his garment and then receiving healing is a perspective that I feel was the difference between someone who lets fear continue to hold them so much so that they're stuck, so much so that they accept their situation for forever, so much so that they continue to live in their circumstance and do nothing. Her perspective and her belief in the healing power of Jesus, despite what everyone else would feel about her presence, had her go out and pursue her healing. And why I know she was afraid is because when Jesus was asking who touched me, she came to him trembling. She came to him trembling, but did not hide like we saw Adam do, did not bury like we saw the guy with the cold do, did not, want to not pursue her healing or not go forth for the promised land like we saw the Israelites wanting to do. Because of her belief in the healing power of Jesus, she went forth and pursued and got her healing. When I think about our world today, there's a lot of talk about mental health, how anxiety, depression, because fear continuing to take root in our lives then begins to show up as anxiety, as depression, and I don't know what other things, okay? And I think many times, even in the way we speak, my anxiety, my depression, like we own it so much so that we are now, our sight of anything beyond that is short. We are short-sighted, so much so that we're not able to see anything beyond our anxiety, our depression. But when I look at this lady's story, despite having bled for 12 years, she believed that this bleeding is not going to continue to be her life anymore. That this disease and situation was not going to continue being the definition of what her life is about. And so the other challenge for you and I is just being able to, as I said, shift our focus, but being able to decide that no longer will I live like this. And I know it's easier said than done, but I just challenge us to believe in the healing power of the Lord. I challenge you and I to believe for it. To believe for it so much so that we go out and get deliverance from it. That we go out and get our power back. that we go out and devour them,
that we go out and do the amazing, great things that the Lord has called us to do.
because we know God is on our side, that we go out and
So just some scripture to hold on to. I may have talked about some of them. Deuteronomy 31:6. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. And then 1 John 4:4. You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world. And the last one, Psalm 27:1. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked advance against me to devour me, it is my enemies and my foes who will stumble and fall. Though an army besiege me, my heart will not fear. Though war break out against me, even then I will be confident. One thing I ask from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, and to seek him in his temple. For in the day of trouble, he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in his shelter of his sacred tent, and set me high upon the rock. Then my head will be exalted above the enemies who surround me. At his sacred tent I will sacrifice with shouts of joy. I will sing and make music to the Lord. Hear my voice when I call, Lord, for in the day of trouble he will keep me safe in his dwelling. He will hide me in the shelter of his sacred tent and set me high upon a rock. So I read Psalm 27:1-5. May this conversation that we've just had encourage you and I to move and show up different. Have a great week and month ahead.